What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about Sweden's government. So, here in the United States, we are just not educated about Sweden. I mean, most of us don't know what kind of government Sweden has. So today, I want to fix that. So I think it's time to finally learn about what the government is like in Sweden. So let's take a look here, starting with Sweden's leadership. That's a good place to start. It says the head of state, the monarch, the king. Sweden has a king? See, I didn't even know that. The king serves as the official head of state? That sounds important. I gotta say, like, especially here in the US, we don't know anything about like royalty and kings and queens, and we don't have that. So it's difficult for us to sort of relate and understand all that. It says, unlike historical rulers, the Swedish king holds strictly ceremonial duties. Oh, and has zero actual power or governing power. Wow, that's totally different from what I thought like a king typically does. Like, we're taught like kings have like absolute power. Like here, I mean, there's even like the joke here in the US, Donald Trump would like to be the king. Um, it's probably not even really a joke. But it would mean he has absolute power to do whatever he wants. And so Sweden has a king, but it's not like that. Okay, which is probably good because that's I think a lot of people would agree that's not a good way to like run a country, just having one individual with absolute power that can never change. It's not good. So, okay, you have a king, but it's not like the king that Americans think of. Think of the king as Sweden's premier cultural ambassador, representing the nation's heritage without passing any law. Okay, he's like a representative of Sweden. Wow. But does he like live in a castle? Like seriously, like does he get special privileges? It's still like based on birth. And do people like the king of Sweden? Hopefully, people like the king if he's like your ambassador. But that's cool. That's an important role to like represent Sweden. And does he like go places and yeah, okay. Okay, that's the head of state in Sweden. And then you have the head of government, which is the prime minister. So Sweden has a prime minister. As opposed, like in the US, we tend to get confused about anything other than a president because we have a president. That's what we're comfortable with. I know a lot of countries actually have prime ministers. A lot of countries, actually. So I know this is like a normal thing. It's just different for us. It's the real leader of Sweden, who runs the country, directs foreign policy, and commands the cabinet. Cabi- Here in the US, we actually have something called a cabinet in our government, so maybe there are some similarities here. But the prime minister is basically like a president. It's the highest ranking elected official of your country. Okay. This role is highly comparable to the American president. It even says that. The prime minister is chosen from the parliament rather than being voted on directly by citizens. Oh, that's very different. That's very different. Maybe that's technically the difference between a president and a prime minister. They're both heads of the government, but maybe the difference is how they're elected. So okay. That's very different from in the U.S., where it's like a presidential election. different candidates like battling against each other, and we all go to the polls and we vote on a specific person to be the leader. Whereas in Sweden, the parliament picks, but you guys pick the parliament, I think would make sense. So you pick representatives in the parliament, but then they pick the prime minister. So you kind of indirectly pick the prime minister, or it's very different, but I suppose it works because a lot of countries do have a prime minister from what I hear. All right, the Swedish monarchy. Okay, let's get into more detail about the monarchy. King Carl XVI, the 16th, I want to say. Gustav, King Carl Gustav. There he is with a really fancy necklace. My God. So he looks like a nice guy, honestly. Like, not, I guess in the US, when we think of kings, like we're influenced by like movies and TV. We think it's some crazy with a crown rule, like like evil king. Too much Game of Thrones, I think. This just seems like a nice guy. Sweden is legally classified as a constitutional monarchy. Ah, so it's like you have a monarchy, but and a constitution with parliaments and leaders and elected officials, but you still have a monarchy. So cool. Nothing wrong with that. It's just different. This means they maintain their royal family, but the Constitution has stripped them of executive power. Got it. So it's mostly like a traditional kind of thing. That's cool. King Carl the 16th, Gustav, has been on the throne for over 50 years. So for most Swedish people out there, he is the only king you have known for your whole life. 50 years! Wow! He opens the annual session of Parliament, chairs special councils, hosts foreign dignitaries. His daughter, Crown Princess Victoria, is next in line. Oh, so next in line is going to be like a queen, Victoria. Interesting. Seems like a nice guy. Do people like him? Probably. Congress. Okay. Getting into the Swedish government. The Riksdag. Is that, how do you say it? The Riksdag? Well, the US has a bicameral Congress, a Senate and a House of Representatives. You had different parts of Congress. Sweden has a single chamber parliament called a Riksdag. That certainly makes it more simple, just one chamber. It's 349 members, elected directly by the public. So that's how you get direct representation. The people of Sweden vote on these 349 people. And then you trust them to sort of pick the prime minister, that's the biggest difference to me so far. Their core responsibilities look very familiar to Americans. You propose bills, vote on laws, approve budgets. Very similar. Yeah, our governments are similar in many ways, and very different in some ways too. Representation, fair representation, proportional voting. Instead of the American winner take all system, where one candidate wins the entire district, Sweden uses proportional representation. Okay. If a political party gets 20% of the national vote, they will receive 20% of the 349 seats. Wow. This ensures minority voices are still represented. That's amazing. The fact that you guys have a system in place to make sure these smaller voices without much power or influence still get heard, because it's important to hear a variety of ideas. In the US, like our system is set up to where you just hear the same thing over and over again. It's so annoying, honestly. There's not much innovation or new ideas, and it's impossible to get outside of our two political parties, Republican and Democrat. So I really like this, actually. I really like that. 4% threshold to To prevent fragmentation where dozens of tiny extremist parties make it impossible to govern, Sweden has a safety net. A party needs at least 4% of the nationwide vote to win any seats. Okay, so you need to meet a threshold of popularity to get into the Swedish government. Fair enough, because in the US, it's very much a winner take all. Like if your representative wins your district or your area, all of that belongs to that one party. And I like this where you actually like it's proportional. And when we vote for the president, like California, if California votes for like Donald Trump, if he wins the vote in California by one vote, he gets all the votes in California when we're electing the president. So it's actually pretty crazy. So in the US, we sometimes talk about how weird that is, but not enough. And when you see countries like Sweden doing this kind of stuff and it being successful, we should really look at that more. Multi-party system. That sounds amazing too. The idea, multiple party, imagine. Left-wing bloc, led historically by the Social Democrats, focuses on protecting the Swedish social welfare state, funding public health care. Man, just things that we never, you would never hear about this stuff here. Like an actual welfare state, public health care. Huh! Wow. Yeah. If all, we don't even talk about this stuff. Center right bloc, moderate party, lower taxes, lower business regulations, civil liberties. That's pretty popular in the US. Sweden Democrats, highly influential right wing populist party, rapidly growing, reducing immigration, tightening law enforcement. All of these ideas have some level of representation in the US, except the left wing bloc. We don't talk about like welfare and public health care, climate. We really don't talk about that very much. Um, and it looks like Sweden has like how many parties do you have? Like in the US, there's two. It's a nightmare. You have to pick between two. It's so dumb. Especially when I see this. You guys have like three or eight or more different parties to pick, which makes sense because there's so many ideas and philosophies that you could choose from. That sounds so much better. And then you have a government made up of lots of different ideas. And in the US, like it's just the two parties battling each other and nothing really gets done easily. And we're just like trying to screw each other over. It's like a very animalistic, aggressive relationship rather than working together. Wow, this is like very eye-opening. Choosing the prime minister. Okay, how do you guys choose the prime minister? By electing the parliament, right? No direct vote. Swedish citizens don't vote directly for prime minister. That's very different. That would be very difficult for Americans to understand. I kind of get it, but it just feels like you don't directly control who the leader of the country is, which is kind of scary. Instead, after the parliamentary election every 4 years. Oh, so there's an election every 4 years. So that's when the prime minister can change, I guess? The Speaker of the House, the Talmannen, holds consultations with party leaders and formally proposes a candidate. The Speaker of the House and the party leaders choose the prime minister? The parliament then votes on the prime minister that's been proposed? Unlike most countries, the candidate in Sweden does not need a yes majority to win. They are appointed as long as the majority does not vote no. This is a bit confusing. So that's what negative parliamentarianism is. Interesting. So the Speaker of the House, who gets to be Speaker of the House? Because that's a big responsibility. You You meet with the party leaders and you all propose a candidate for prime minister. That's a big responsibility. Then the parliament votes on that. And as long as too many people don't disapprove, then it passes. Interesting. I've never heard of that before. Apparently, this is unique. Election Day, September 13th. Is that true? Is there an election coming up in Sweden? In like 3 months? Is that true? Is this accurate? Whoa. Whoa. There's an election coming up? Whoa. Current prime minister is named Ulf Kristersson. There he is. Is he popular? Looks like a nice guy. I don't know him at all. I've never heard of him. Ulf Kristersson, leader of the Moderate Party, prime minister since 2024. So it has been 4 years. No single party has an outright majority. So he leads a minority coalition with the Christian Democrats and Liberals, relying on support from the Sweden Democrats. See, this is where it's all like complicated party politics I don't really understand. So the parties have to like work together, especially when it's a minority col the prime minister is part of a minority party or not a majority or I understand it a little bit. This stuff is just so different from American politics. It is difficult for us to understand. But it sounds cool that you have lots of parties that have to work together. I like that a lot. To pass laws, lots of people have to approve of them. 3 power levels in Sweden: the national level, the state government, led by the Riksdag, the cabinet. You handle the military, national police, foreign policy, and taxes. This is why our nationwide standards are set for all Sweden. Okay, makes sense. National, regional, and local levels. Sweden has 21 regions that manage healthcare, hospitals, public transit. It makes sense, sort of like more specific local things. And then 290 local municipalities where there are schools, childcare, the roads, maintenance, elder. Okay, that stuff is all somewhat similar to the US. You got national, regional, and local levels of government. And I think that's it. Okay, we did it. The government of Sweden is quite different in many ways. Similar in some ways. I think I understand it like okay. There's actually many things that I really like about this. I don't even mind the king because it sounds like you figured out like the monarchy king situation too, where that is like makes sense and balanced. The government seems balanced, and the way you select the prime minister is really different. The way you have minority coalitions that's confusing. But I can see obviously why this works. Sweden is like a very successful, happy, like powerful country. So obviously this is working. And I just think it's good for Americans to see these different types of government. Like there's stuff we could learn from this that we could incorporate. Seriously. There's some stuff here I really liked. So, this was really cool. Anyway, if you enjoyed this, feel free to give this video a like or leave a comment, especially if you're Swedish and you understand this stuff. That'd be really cool to hear about. And if you're interested in more videos like this, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching and see you next time.